And welcome back to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes from us from Niles H, who asked the question, who would win a fight, Bane or Wolverine? I was actually surprised to find that you were the only one to give me the suggestion. Someone else might have, but I couldn't find it. Bane versus Wolverine. Now, I'm going to do something I don't normally do, but I think it's a very good way to kind of compare these guys. I'm going to kind of compare them stat to stat and X Factor, and then get to the actual fight. But a little backstory. Obviously, Bane, I actually can't remember Bane's real name. But he was born in a prison and because he was born in prison, he was basically serving his father's sentence and became a genius. Basically ruled the prison. Eventually, he's famous. He got out, got hooked onto a drug called Venom, which enhances physical strength immensely. And he's famous for breaking Batman's back, and he's been in DC Comics ever since. Wolverine, also known as James Howlett, was born at the tail end of the 1800s. His mutation activated, giving animal-like features and bone claws. He lived many decades until he eventually wound up in the Weapon X program in Canada, which bonded his adamantium to his bones, so forth and so on. Now, let's break this down, because both these guys hold edges over the others, and then you got your X factors to deal with. Let's start with intelligence. I'd say Bane's the more intelligent of the two. He is a genius level intellect on par with someone like Batman. Wolverine is actually very smart. In fact, you could argue he's a genius, but not in like a scientific, mathematical way or anything like that. Beast, I think, described his brain activity as being like the combination of a gymnast doing triathlon while doing 3 games of mental chess or something akin to that. So Wolverine is actually quite smart, but in terms of like a strategist, in terms of actual legitimate genius, yeah, it's Bane. Bane beats Wolverine out in intelligence. Probably tactics too. Then you got to go look into their physicality. Speed, who's the faster of the two? Well, Wolverine's actually smaller by quite a bit compared to Bane, especially when Bane bulks up. Bane probably is faster by some level, at least when he's like, say, in base form. But I'm actually going to give the speed, at least reflexes-wise, advantage to Wolverine. Strength-wise, Bane does outclass Wolverine in strength. Even in his base form, he's probably on even terms with Wolverine, who does have a limited degree of super strength. Wolverine might be a little stronger, might edge him out barely, but still, they're pretty close. Adding the Venom in there clearly gives him the edge physically. Durability. Now, this is interesting. If we're just talking about them as a whole, like their physical bodies, Bane, I'd actually say, is the more durable because his skin toughens up too. He can withstand gunfire, things along those lines. Reason why Wolverine's more durable is because he has the adamantium skeleton and he has his stubborn healing factor. But he still takes damage just like anyone else. Bane actually does toughen up as he gets bigger and stronger, proportionally. So physically, durability-wise, Bane technically is more durable, but we know it's Wolverine. We know Wolverine will just tank any legitimate blow. And then you factor in how they fight. Now, this is odd because I would say if they were on just like a straight hand-to-hand, just like, okay, let's have a one-on-one, mano-a-mano, just straight hand-to-hand fight, no abilities, nothing like that. I might give the edge to Wolverine, but it's really because Wolverine's mastered a lot of martial arts in his time. So has Bane. But Wolverine's far older than Bane, so he's had a lot more experience. The problem here is that Wolverine's fighting style isn't normally a very finesse fighting style. It's not usually incorporating a martial arts or anything. It's usually just, he does think a lot of time in fighting, as long as he's not blinded by berserker rage. But it's usually using his claws, which means he's not usually using like an actual combat style. But that said, he is actually still extremely skilled. He's one of the more skilled not the most, but he's probably in the top 10 martial artists in Marvel when you really break it down. I mean, Shang-Chi, Iron Fist, they're in the top 10, like top 3 or 5. But then take that out of the equation, you got Black Panther, you got Black Panther, you got Deadpool's up there, Captain America. Yeah, I'd say Wolverine definitely falls in the top 10 best hand-to-hand fighters. But I would say Bane is ultimately a better hand-to-hand fighter in this circumstance because Wolverine isn't going to be using just straight hand-to-hand tactics. Plus, get some guy like this, Wolverine knows just straight fighting hand-to-hand isn't going to work. So now we get into the brief X factors. Obviously, Bane has Venom. His Venom, now not every version of Bane is Venom. He's actually kicked the stuff before, but then got back on it. How strong Bane gets on the Venom is very up for interpretation, but he gets pretty strong. He gets well within the superhuman tier range. Nothing like a Superman or a Wonder Woman, but definitely something akin to more like a Colossus or something like that. Someone who can lift several tons without any issue whatsoever. And, punching through crushing steel, punching through stone. Bane is a monster when he's roided out completely. And again, you factor in you factor that in with a genius level intellect, his actual skill, and he is one of Batman's most dangerous enemies. Wolverine's X factors are adamantium, which by all accounts is indestructible, or nigh indestructible. Then he also obviously has the claws, which could cut through theoretically anything depending on the force he exerts and so forth and so on. But then you factor in also Wolverine's healing factor, which is definitely varied over the course of years. But his healing factor has pretty much allowed him to, if we go by some of the most extreme stuff we've seen, not taking into consideration Ultimate's Wolverine, because that is a completely different continuity. We're sticking with the main continuity of Wolverine we know. He survived being blasted, blown up by Nitro, basically having everything but his brain blown up. He's survived massive amounts of gunshots. He survived being impaled. Survived basically nearly having his head taken off. Survived having his heart cut in half. Survived the vacuum of space. Survived being burned to hell. He didn't survive the adamantium, but he theoretically, I was actually surprised by it. His body was perfectly fine when they took him out, when Kitty actually faced his body out of the adamantium. So despite the fact he was boiling hot adamantium, he did not live through that. I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff he survived. He survived nukes. He survived nukes to the face. So he survived God knows how much. And then in the recent comics, when he came back, he can now, with his rage, when he gets angry, actually heat his claws up. And that ties into his Berserker Rage. When he goes into Berserker's Rage, all of his abilities are kind of heightened: physical strength, their ability ignoring pain, and just ripping his opponent apart. So, who wins in a fight with these guys? Well, if the universe is crossed over, which they have before, let's say, Wolverine and Bane somehow end up, meeting up, and, you smell toxic. Move out of the way, little man. Because he's, I can't remember what his accent. He's got a Latin accent. We're not going to do the bread unless you want me to do the bread. Yes, Wolverine, I will break you. No, move it, little man, before you get hurt. And that was a weird accent, but whatever. And it was like, how about no, bub? And then the claws come out, and Bane's just like, very, very well then. Just as I broke the back, I will break the Wolverine. Now, Bane, even at that size, is deceptively fast, but Wolverine is tangled individuals, let's be honest, far more powerful and dangerous than Bane. Omega Red, for instance, what I would say is far more dangerous and even more powerful than Bane. And he's tangled with them plenty. He's tangled with the symbiotes a couple times. He's tangled with a bunch of X-Men mutants that are definitely more dangerous than Bane. That's not to say Bane, or at least more powerful than Bane. So Wolverine's definitely tackled these guys before. Guys like Bane before, but that doesn't change the fact that this guy's powerful, and versus Wolverine. Wolverine ducks, tries to get a swipe with Bane. Now, his claws obviously can cut Bane, but Bane's body being thickened up, it does, I think, dull some, not only dull the pain, but dull's not the right word. It shallows the cut. So the cut, instead of Wolverine immediately just, slicing, just gutting Bane, his claws maybe go in a couple inches, which is still impressive. And Bane's even like, for you to cut me like that, Wolverine, it is most impressive. I'm guessing going with a Russian accent now. I don't know. I'll figure something out. It's most impressive. I will break you. And Wolverine's basically playing, duck cut for a while. Eventually, though, I'm pretty sure Bane would figure out the pattern and eventually grab Logan, smash him against the wall, start beating the ever-loving hell out of him, Just boom, 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 boom. Now, I don't think he's going to break his hands on Logan's body or a skull or anything like that. But I do think he realizes that even like, that hurts. What you made of? No matter. And then he just says, just as I broke the butt, I break the Wolverine. And then he tries to break Logan. It was definitely dazed. World War Hulk shows you could daze Logan by basically slapping his brain around in his skull case. I don't think Bane hits that hard, but he could still hit hard enough to rattle Logan's clock a little bit. To which then he tries to break Logan and just boom. The minute he does that, though, he's like, ah! He's actually just drops Logan real quick. Just, oh, what is this? Yeah, sorry, Bob. Yeah, there's no breaking adamantium. And, he comes in again. Logan comes and slices up. But Bane just grabs it. Like, there's no breaking. There's nothing I can't break. And then he just tries to break Logan in, who's just it still hurts because he's forcing Logan's bones in a position they're not supposed to go. His ligaments aren't at least in the Ultimate Universe, the ligaments didn't have adamantium conjoined with them, so they are fused with them, so you could still like pop. That's how the Hulk tore him in half. But in the normal continuity, I think it is part of his ligaments. That doesn't mean it still doesn't hurt though. It's like, ah! And then Wolverine notices the Achilles heel with Bane, the Venom tube, and just quickly just flips it and just slices it. No, and then he starts to just no, and it goes back down into his his base form, which is still actually a reasonably seriously fit dude. But he's like, ugh, and then Wolverine just he's about to say, "You think this will stop me? It will," and then Wolverine's like, "Yeah, whatever, bub, just." Puts him right through the head. Now, why does Wolverine win this? Well, it's actually pretty obvious, at least in my mind. Wolverine's healing factor and his durability with the adamantium skeleton give him a clear-cut edge over Bane in terms of durability and just the ability to outlast him in a fight. Now, Bane does have a physical advantage in terms of strength, and he even has a skill advantage combined with that. But the problem here is, Wolverine always has weapons on call that he can cut Bane with, and even an enhanced durability that the Venom gives him, he'd still be able to cut through Bane, so it'd just be a matter of time before he bled Bane out. Bane would realize this too. I'm sure Bane would try to break him, and that would be a very bad mistake, because he might even break his own knee on Wolverine's spine. But ultimately, Bane's biggest weakness is that he has his Venom is always exposed. Like the carrying source for his Venom is always exposed, meaning that's how you can kind of take him down when he's in the Venom form, is just get rid of his connection to his Venom. And at that point, then Wolverine just has to skewer him. And even then, let's assume for a moment that Wolverine didn't manage to get the tube. Wolverine ultimately would still just take him out, I think, because I think Bane would probably try to crush him or something like that. Maybe try to tear out his arms. The problem here is that Wolverine, with Berserker Rage, which eventually would take place with the amount of pain he was being put under, would be able to probably briefly overpower him, probably kick him in the face, and then just rush it and just blindly slash, probably taking a limb off eventually, and just repeatedly slashing and stabbing and eventually taking him out. The fact that Wolverine's smaller too gives him a lower center of gravity and makes him a speedier foe for Bane, especially when he's in that form. Ultimately, I gotta go Wolverine on this, but what do you think? You think it's Wolverine, or do you think it's Bane? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll get to a review of it at some point. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. I got a who would win tomorrow. I got a what if tomorrow. Later.